Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing well, staying safe, staying indoors, and staying healthy at this trying period of time. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the hacker on Friday Night Smackdown. No, it's not a native New Zealand dance. It is a hacker in the sense of computer hacking. Someone has been hacking in to Friday Night Smackdown for months now, it would appear. So how did this all start off? Well, this started off the way I like a lot of angles to start off. Very, very, very subtly, this started off. So we started to see these glitches on Friday Night Smackdown. And I don't want to repeat too much stuff in this video because I've already talked about the hacker and some potential identities. We're going to go in a little bit more depth today. But just to give a bit of a background, so we saw some glitches on SmackDown. They would come up and the commentators would not talk about them. They were obviously instructed, do not talk about what is appearing on the screen right now. And that went on for, gosh, it must have been about 6 weeks. And everyone was like, at first everyone was like, is this my TV malfunctioning or whatever I'm watching this on malfunctioning? It wasn't, it was part of the program. And since then, we've seen the hacker, not full identity, but it's become a lot more prominent on SmackDown now. So we obviously had the Friday Night SmackDown before WrestleMania. The hacker was the one that revealed Sonya Deville and Dolph Ziggler's plot to put Mandy Rose and Otis against each other, preventing that love story from coming to fruition and having Mandy Rose go together with Dolph Ziggler. The hacker was the almost social justice warrior in that storyline and the hero. But we haven't really heard the commentators definitely, and not really the superstars, talk about the hacker since. We haven't heard anything else since. That obviously changed this past week on SmackDown, whereby we saw another almost vignette from the hacker appearing on screen. You couldn't see their face. They're wearing a hoodie, but they're in there. I don't even know what you would call it, their hacker setup section where they've got the monitors behind them and the logo on the screens there as well. We'll go into the logo in a second. And this time it would appear that the hacker is focusing in on the tag teams on Friday Night SmackDown. Some of the names that came up on the screen were the women's tag team champions Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, Sasha Banks and Bayley. We had the New Day on there, Miz and Morrison, Heavy Machinery, etc., etc. If you're a tag team on Friday Night SmackDown, you appeared on this vignette. And then obviously they talked about not everything being what it seems and the truth will be heard and etc. That's what their mantra has been since then. So in terms of the tag teams, I think this is quite interesting because this would imply that a tag team is going to be splitting up soon. Now, who could that be? Could that be Miz and Morrison? Could it be the New Day? Of course, the New Day won the tag team championships on SmackDown last week, so you would think it's unlikely that they could split up, but perhaps this is all part of the story. And again, in terms of the identity, we'll go into that in a second. Maybe it's the Miz and Morrison. Maybe it's the reason that the hacker, that they lost, the tag team championships last week was to have the hacker finally split those two up. So it's an interesting story that they're having from the tag team point of view with the hacker. But the most important thing and the most enticing thing about this story so far is the hacker's identity, of course. Who is the SmackDown hacker? Now, I speculated previously on who it could be. There will be a link to that video in the description on one of the cards that will appear on the screen in this video. But this week, or the past few days, definitely, there's been a lot of online sleuthing from the WWE Universe about the identity of the hacker. So much so that the two vignettes of the hacker talking that we've seen on SmackDown, the first one with Sonya Deville and Dolph Ziggler, and the one this past week on SmackDown with the tag teams, some online Twitter sleuths have managed to sort of remove the voice modifications and voice modulations that would disguise the identity of the hacker. Now, spoiler ahead, of course, if you don't want to know potential spoilers for this storyline, if you don't want to know the possible identity of the hacker, if you don't want to have anything spoiled, you just want to see it organically, I'll give you a few seconds now to click out of this video. So spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Okay. So it's just first left. So it would appear, if these two videos are correct, that they are two different voices being used in these hacker vignettes. Now, people, it would appear that the first vignette was Mustafa Ali. Now, this isn't surprising to many. This is obviously wasn't surprising to myself. Mustafa Ali is the person that many people are assuming is the person behind the hacker on Friday Night SmackDown. And there are several reasons as to why this is the case. One, we just haven't seen that much of Mustafa Ali. We haven't seen that much of him for, gosh, the longest time. Definitely since the turn of the year. He was doing dark matches all through towards the end of last year, and I think some people, rightfully so, were quite concerned about his standing in the WWE. You got to remember, this is a guy that around WrestleMania time last year, he was going to get the Kofi Kingston style push of having the big, maybe a run of Daniel Bryan to Elimination Chamber, all of that stuff, and it didn't work out. He got injured by Randy Orton, Kofi Mania happened, and the rest is history, and Mustafa Ali never really recovered. His career didn't really, anyway, recover from then. So a lot of people were assuming it was him because we haven't seen a lot of him. A lot of people were assuming it was him because those logos that I mentioned in the hacker setup and the logos we've been seeing in the vignettes and the glitches and the teaser is all very similar to the logo that Mustafa Ali actually has on his ring gear. Now, when he comes to the ring, Mustafa Ali is well known for having this very bright LED style entrance gear, and he has on his hand, along with the mask that lights up on his face, on his hand he has a series of LED lights in a circle that light up, and the logo for the hacker that we've seen in the glitches, on the vignettes, in his hacker den, shall we call it, that logo has been spread everywhere, and a lot of people obviously are making the connection. That logo looks a bit like Mustafa Ali. We haven't seen Mustafa Ali that often. It could be him. It could be his repackaging. And furthermore, I think what is a good background to this, of course, is that before Mustafa Ali was a professional wrestler, he was a Chicago police officer in the Chicago PD. So this whole vigilante style hacker gimmick could fit in nicely with him. Obviously, he's no longer in law enforcement, but he's trying to enforce the law on Friday Night SmackDown. He's trying to right the wrongs of injustice on Friday Night SmackDown, bring the villains to justice. It sounds very reminiscent of a police officer, a vigilante, that kind of style, like sort of Batman figure, I guess. It's interesting. So a lot of people are making those parallels with Mustafa Ali, and this first clip of the hacker's voice being demodified would appear that Mustafa Ali was cutting the promo. But it doesn't end there. As I mentioned, there have been two voices that have been found in these promos so far. So it's not only Mustafa Ali, but it would appear, again, if these voice modulation removals are correct, that the second voice used in the second vignette, the one focusing on the tag teams on Friday Night SmackDown, is none other than Chad Gable. Now, this is interesting. This is an interesting turn for me when you think of this character. One, again, Mustafa Ali, I'm totally fine with it being him. It makes sense. I suppose the only issue with it being Mustafa Ali is that it's obvious. But obvious isn't necessarily a bad thing. Chad Gable being involved is interesting on several levels. One, thank God, if it is the case, that Shorty G is no longer a thing. I think Shorty G was one of those ideas. Now, if you've ever watched anything that I've ever done, or you've seen our social media or anything like that, you know I'm not a fan of the Shorty G gimmick. I don't even know who is, apart from Vince McMahon, to be honest. But the Shorty G gimmick is one of those gimmicks that as soon as you see it, you just go, well, it's obviously not going to work. Why isn't it going to work? Because it's not 1985. Even then, it would struggle. So it was a ridiculous gimmick. So if Shorty G, Chad Gable, is getting involved in this hacker gimmick, that means Shorty G is gone and dead. Thank God. So that's a positive. Perhaps if this is legitimate, perhaps Chad Gable and Mustafa Ali are becoming a tag team. That would incorporate into looking at the tag teams on SmackDown, since they're calling out the tag teams. Why so? Because Mustafa Ali and Chad Gable are a tag team. That would be interesting, but I just don't know if it's the best use for both of them. I'd like to see them both get a sustained singles push. I'm not sure they need to be in a tag team. Look, Chad Gable, when he was wrestling continuously in the King of the Ring last year, was getting over. That's a fact. That is an absolute fact. He was on arguably the biggest role of his singles career, definitely. The crowd was getting behind him. He gets saddled with the Shorty G gimmick, and who would have thought he died? So that's what happened to him. Mustafa Ali, again, he was going to have the push. It didn't work out for him. I just don't know if a tag team's the best use for them. I'd like to see them in something more singular. I'd like to see them something that's completely different directions for them, but we'll have to see on that one. In terms of Chad Gable's involvement in this as well, obviously the potential is this just a red herring from WWE? Look, you sometimes have to give WWE credit, and then you sometimes have to give them not so much credit. Stuff like this, sometimes they do go in so deep and so in depth with their storytelling to throw people off the scent that they will have guys like a Chad Gable or even a Mustafa Ali to cut the promos in these vignettes just so people think, oh, wait a minute, that might not be who I think it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be Mustafa Ali the whole time. But if we have Chad Gable come in, cut a few promos on there, it will throw people off the scent. It's a red herring. So is that likely? It's a definite possibility. It's an absolute definite possibility. We know they're both still with the company. We know we both haven't seen them both recently. So it's a potential that it's a red herring. I'm leaning more towards it's a red herring. I still think that Mustafa Ali is going to be revealed as the hacker. Like I said, I think it makes more sense for Ali to be the hacker in terms of his background, in terms of the logo, in terms of the character. All of that stuff makes sense. I know some people have been speculating because on these hacker promos, when he turns around and he presses a button, you can sort of see his hand, and some people are talking about the skin tone. Is that necessarily matching with the likes of Mustafa Ali? Is it more in keeping with a Chad Gable? So it's interesting to see. It's really fascinating to see. And of course, this is all speculation. This could be very, very likely that neither guy is the hacker. It could be very likely that the video release that is apparently removed the voice modulations from these promos is completely wrong. I must say the second clip I saw of the Chad Gable one does sound very, very, very like Chad Gable. He has quite a distinct voice. Mustafa Ali, that one, it was a bit like, it could be either way. It could be either way on that one. But I still do think it's Mustafa Ali. And I hope it's not a tag team. The only scenario which I wouldn't mind seeing if it was more than one person is if it's a group of people. We've seen these groups in real life. The best kind of wrestling angles that reflect real life, or they touch a nerve of real life. We've seen not to go in too deep, but we've seen in the last 10 years, we've seen online hacking groups, haven't we? Release information that they deem to be important or of public interest. Release private information. Highlighting corruption in governments, highlighting corruption in organizations, corporate officials, government officials, you name it, it's been released or leaked, shall we say, into the public eye. So maybe WWE could look to copy this, whereby it's not just one person or two people, it's 4 or 5. It's a group of hackers. It's an organization of hackers with one leader organizing his minions, shall we say, to do the hacking and the leaking of documents. I think it would be an incredibly interesting gimmick for WWE to look to do a gimmick whereby someone's leaking something. The whole thing with WWE in 2020 and in the last sort of 5 or 6 years is all about reporters and online sleuths trying to report something first, isn't it? They're always trying to leak something. They're always trying to show spoilers. They're always trying to show spoilers. I mean, this video, I'm no hypocrite. I'll be completely honest here. I'm talking about who a potential person could be behind the hacker gimmick. Potentially it's a spoiler. I've talked about someone who's tried to decode it and get the first report in. That's what we do. That is the internet in 2020 when it comes to professional wrestling. It would be really interesting and fascinating to see WWE turn that on its head and create a gimmick whereby they have someone leaking information to the public eye, or leaking the information to the WWE universe, the information that WWE officials and certain superstars want to be hidden from the WWE universe, but the hacker thinks it's in the best interest of the WWE universe to hear this information. I think that would be a fascinating gimmick. Could they pull it off well? I don't know. This is WWE. I'm not confident in them pulling off anything well at the moment. But this is essential business, brother, so we'll have to see. So, look, as I mentioned, I would still think it'll be Mustafa Ali as the one person revealed to be the hacker. I wouldn't like it to be a tag team of Chad Gable. I think his involvement is a red herring at best. Like I said, my least favorite scenario is that they're partners in hacking and they become a tag team. I don't really care that much for the Smackdown tag division anyway. Look, don't get me wrong, there's great competitors, but I think I've seen that combination of the New Day, Miz, Morrison, the Usos, whatever. That all just feels like it's very flat and needs revamping, in my opinion. And I know some people will be saying, well, this new tag team might come in and revamp it. I just think it's a better singular gimmick for one person, or it's all or nothing with this gimmick. It's a singular gimmick for one person, or it's a faction gimmick where you've got 5 or 6 people involved. You've got like 5 hackers and one big leader, and it's sort of an organization of hackers that will leak information. I think that would be a really interesting modern WWE storyline or pro wrestling storyline that reflects society, because that is going on in society. You just have to read the news. It's something that would be interesting. It's something that would be on the pulse, I think, of pop culture at the moment. It's not to say that it will happen, but we'll have to wait and see. So, it's obviously not just about my opinion, it's also about your opinion. What do you think of the hacker gimmick? Do you think that Mustafa Ali or Chad Gable or both will eventually be revealed as the hackers on Friday Night SmackDown? When do you think the hacker will finally be revealed? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. You can also go to our channel, click subscribe there, or if you wait a couple more seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Stay safe, stay indoors, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.